To me, in a teaching job, the dance monkey is I am like their little puppet filling out paperwork and doing stuff that has nothing to do with my job so that people sitting in an office get to keep theirs. I am their dance monkey. Fill out this form, take this, do that. You have to go to this professional development. You have to do this, you have to do this. Does it help me? No, it doesn't help me at all. But I have to be their dance monkey so they can continue to get their $200,000 a year job.
I've seen this song exactly the same way in my own life when I would put my kids to bed and then they would say, could you get me a glass of water? Could you do this? Could I do this? I did feel like a puppet. And I said to myself when that song was popular, I was like, I'm a dance monkey. I'm a little puppet and I just dance for my kids and do what they want.
Yeah, that's exactly it. At least I got paid for being a dance monkey.
I get paid in other ways, like emotional scars.
I'm making my way through the drip, drip, drop.
Welcome to the Cydni and Sher podcast. We're so glad you're here.
Today, Cydni, we are going to talk about Elvis meeting President Nixon for our summer series.
Did you know that Elvis Presley released an album that had zero music on it?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was only spoken content and people hated it. It was a flop. But I was thinking it's kind of funny because it's really a podcast before a podcast. And people were like, that's never going to stick. I hate this. Where's the music?
Did the album have any music at all? Like, did he speak to the music? It was just literally him talking?
Yes, it was clips. They collected different pieces in between shows or sets. So it was just when he would talk, and I guess he performed a few speeches. I would love to know what his speeches were like, especially after the story we're going to talk about. His personality seems to be eccentric.
That is a good word for it.
Are you an Elvis fan, though?
I do like Elvis. What about you?
Yeah, if you had to pick Elvis or the Beatles, who would you pick?
Oh, Elvis, 100%.
Me too.
Yeah.
I've actually never been that big of a Beatles fan.
Me either.
Really?
I mean, I like the Beatles, but I don't love the Beatles. I like some of their songs, but most of their songs I don't like.
Yeah, I think, though, overall, I'd have to pick Johnny Cash.
Oh, well, that wasn't in the running. Of course, Johnny Cash is going to win.
You think so?
Oh, for
Are we on
sure.
the same page on something together in our life?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, Johnny Cash wins hands down.
I love him.
Me too.
This has been very healing. We've come together on a topic.
Yay.
And it really is because you came to the side of talking about things that have nothing to do with our topic. So if you could just do that more often, there could be more peace.
That's a great idea.
I do love about Elvis, though, that he tried out for a quartet, a gospel quartet, and they did not let him in. He didn't make the cut, which is so funny to think about now since he became such a big deal. He was too sexy for the time.
His voice was too sexy. His hips were too sexy.
That dance moves.
He got kicked out of that choir.
I love about him also that his dance moves, they originated because he was so nervous at his shows that his legs were literally shaking and he couldn't get a grip, but the ladies loved it. And so they kept it. And that's what's beautiful about him is he just like turns things into something.
That's true. Unlike most people, especially if they're famous, they don't turn anything into something.
He turns things into something. I feel like I turned peace into chaos. When Ben and I were dating, I nannied 5 children and he came to surprise me and say hello. And Play-Doh went through a window as he walked up to the door.
Through the window?
Yes.
Like broke it?
They broke the window.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I know. He walked in and there was a broken window and one of the twin boys was climbing the fridge. He was all the way on the top. And Ben still married me. What? So sometimes when he's like, what is happening? There's so much chaos. I say, you knew. You knew what was happening. Mm-hmm. I did not hide it. I did get paid for that nannying job somehow, which I look back on and I'm like, oh, I should send them money. Be like, I'm so sorry about the broken window and fridge and the bed. I'm sorry about that. I just parent different than other people. Anyway, back to Elvis.
Thank goodness.
This works too because we were talking about Dance Monkey and we've been talking about different animals that these people have owned. He had a monkey that he taught tricks to and a donkey. They did not say he taught tricks to the donkey, but I'm assuming he did. Why not? Yeah. I just feel back in these times, people had more exotic animals.
Maybe it has something to do with money. They had more money.
I'm trying to decide if I agree, if it was more money or just like people were more chill about what animals to own.
Maybe, but I'm just saying that the people we've been talking about had a lot of cash so they can have whatever animal they want.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. In my head, it was more like, who decided we could just have cats and dogs? Who's made that rule? Like, why does that have to be the norm? Why can't we go back to a donkey or a monkey or a hippo or a raccoon?
I guess we can if you want to. If you really feel passionate about it, since you're such a pet lover.
Yeah, absolutely not. I don't want any of them, but someone else might. Here's something else I don't want any of. Elvis had a favorite sandwich. There's 4 ingredients, and this was also put in his mother's recipe book. He loved a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but add bacon and banana.
Okay, the banana I can see, but bacon on it?
I mean, what isn't good with bacon on it?
That. Peanut butter, jam, and banana, and bacon does
I don't
not
think
sound
so.
good.
I can't think of anything that won't make life better if you add bacon. Salads, pizza, eggs, steak, peanut butter.
My question is then, you just don't like the banana on it?
Why add a fruit? Why do that?
Just add extra bacon.
That should be our challenge. Our challenge at the end, prepare yourself, is to try Elvis's sandwich.
I challenge you to do that.
I'm going to.
Okay, I want results. I want to know what happens.
I'm going to bring one next week, and we're going to have a little snack while we record.
Can't wait.
The only other thing I think I should really inform you about Elvis so that it really sets the stage is he loved TV so much he would often watch 3 at one time.
3 televisions?
Yeah.
So who needs the little 3 box screens on your TV when you can just set up 3 TVs?
It just feels like he was so ahead of his time with the podcast album and also just like so many screens all the time. He was the king.
That's why he got the title. It has nothing to do with his singing ability.
Nothing at all, but it's that time to follow the outline.
It's catchy. All right. So as I mentioned before, today we're going to talk about the time that Elvis met President Nixon. And the more I read about this story, the more I liked it because it's just weird and funny. I had no idea about any of it until we decided to do this summer series. So I'm glad that we found this story because it has brought much humor to my life.
I love it too because, again, eccentric he was. He was so eccentric. And I didn't know this is the most requested picture in the archives.
I read that. Can you believe that?
And I didn't know anything about it.
Same. All right. So how this whole thing went down is Elvis Presley talked his friend Jerry Schilling into flying with him to Washington, D.C. But he never said why he wanted to do this. He just said, hey, let's go to Washington, D.C. Elvis, however, didn't have any cash. So Jerry gave him a $500 check, which he cashed. And they both flew then from Los Angeles all the way to Washington, D.C. But when Elvis got on the plane, he saw a soldier that was coming home from the Vietnam War, and he gave him the cash. Apparently, this was something that Elvis did all the time. One, he would never have any cash with him, so he'd always borrow cash. And then as soon as he got the cash, he'd give it away to somebody. So that was kind of like his thing. So I think that I'm going to start doing that with you, Cydni.
You're going to take my cash and give it to other people?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to borrow some cash from someone else, and then I'll give it to you.
Perfect.
Yeah, he was really generous. I love a story about he got in a limo and was talking to the limo driver and was like, so is this your business? You own this limo? And he's like, oh, no, I don't have a car. I just work for him. And so he bought that limo for that man. He was so generous, possibly terrible with his money and his friend's money, but so generous.
Right. And I really did enjoy reading about that. He really was like the giving tree with his own money and everybody else's. So back on the plane. Once Elvis was on the plane and gave all his friends' money away, he settled in and he asked the flight attendant for some stationery, and he wrote President Nixon a letter while flying to Washington, D.C. The letter was written in cursive, which is like a foreign language today.
What is cursive?
Exactly.
Can you define that?
Nobody knows how to read it or write it anymore. All those youngins, they have no clue.
Some of them do. Some schools teach it.
Do they?
Yeah.
Who?
Some charter schools around here do.
I'm glad somebody's teaching it because when I'm trying to teach history and people are looking at our founding documents, it's like they're reading a foreign language.
I never considered that.
And think about this, like my mother always wrote in cursive. Now you can't read it. So good job, schools. I say that with all the love as a public school teacher. Okay, back to the letter. I actually was looking at the letter he wrote that has the airline he was flying on, and he wrote, it was like 6 pages. It was good. I read it, the whole thing, and I kind of laughed at a few things that he did. But let's get into that letter. On the letter, he gave President Nixon his phone number of the hotel he was going to be staying at, plus his secret code name he was using while he was there. He also asked the president if he could be made a federal agent at large in the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. So this all went down in 1970. So the Vietnam War was going on. There were protests all over the place. There was a drug culture going on, and communism seemed to be spreading everywhere. And Elvis explained how he could infiltrate communist groups using his celebrity status. He did not like the hate against the country, which was super popular at the time. And Elvis said about the American culture in the letter to Nixon, he said, "I call it American and I love it." Elvis also said he was worried about the direction of the country. And he ended the letter by saying, "I would love to meet you just to say hello if you're not too busy." Then Elvis had his friend Jerry drop the letter off at the White House when they landed.
I have to tell you, the letter makes me laugh so much. I'm just going to share with you a few things that made me laugh out loud. I love that he says, "Dear Mr. President, first, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Elvis Presley." I love that. I think it is so funny. And at the end, he says, "P.S. I believe that you, sir, were one of the top 10 outstanding men of America." I think that's so amazing.
And just a few years later, he got kicked out of office, or he resigned. I wonder if that moved him to his bottom 10 after that.
I don't think so, but I'm going to tell my kids they're my top 10 favorite kids. I want to see how that goes.
They're so generous.
You're on the top 10 list, guys, of my favorite children.
They're so fortunate. So a few hours after Jerry dropped the letter off at the White House, they were invited to go. So there's Elvis, Jerry, and then also they brought along one of Elvis's bodyguards, Sonny West. They're all walking through the halls of the White House, and I have to read this. Elvis was wearing a dark jumpsuit, a cape, sunglasses, and a large belt buckle. One of his friends carried a box that contained Presley's gift to Nixon, a World War II era Colt 45 that the Secret Service immediately confiscated. Bud Crow, who at the time was the White House Deputy for Domestic Affairs, said that Elvis seemed to take that in good grace that it was taken away by the Secret Service. So that was good. He didn't get too uptight about it.
That's nice.
Okay, I'm going to go back to what he was wearing, though.
Yes, please, because I love this. Because you have to dress for who you want to become, not who you are now.
The only way that you can truly get what we're saying here is by looking it up. You got to look at the photos because they are priceless. What did you think about it, Cydni?
I loved it so much. I feel like I'm going to jump ahead if I say too much, but I just feel like he dressed the part.
He did dress the part.
But if you're jumping back, I have to jump back because the code name is also amazing. And I know they have to do that, but it adds so much depth to this. He came up with the very clever name of John Burroughs, but nobody would think that's Elvis.
No.
So it's actually pretty brilliant. When we were in Paris, Cher, there's a city there that is up on the hill, and they say celebrities, like A-list celebrities live there. And where the doorbell is to call each individual apartment, they're all code names. And the code names are fitting for Paris. There's Van Gogh, and there's Monet and Picasso. And they've been that way since the beginning of time because that city is where a famous actress and singer lived. And to this day, famous people still live there.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. There has to be somebody that's just slumming it in there. Come on.
Oh, I think so. I tried to sneak in when they opened it up for the gardener, and our tour guide said, "If I have to tell you to stop again, you'll be asked to leave our tour." And so I didn't. But that's a different story.
Which I can't wait to hear about at some point. Okay, back to Elvis. So according to Bud, remember he was the White House Deputy for Domestic Affairs, Bud said this: "Presley indicated to the president in a very emotional manner that he was on your side. Presley kept repeating that he wanted to be helpful, that he wanted to restore some respect for the flag which was being lost. He mentioned that he was just a poor boy from Tennessee who had gotten a lot from his country, which in some ways he wanted to repay."
Sounds pretty sus to me. Okay, here's the deal. With the stories that you have found, they just make these famous figures feel so human that then I make them too human in my mind. And I'm like, I think he was lying. I think that George Washington was a little bit too close to those girls when he danced. I think Theodore Roosevelt did want to kill that bear. I think that Elvis had maybe suspicious intentions behind this letter. So this conspiracy side of me has now been put on these people. So when I meet them in the next life, I think we will not be friends because of this. They'll be like, you really made a lot of assumptions about someone you didn't know. And I'll just have to be like, well, I read your letter. I saw the pictures.
And I wish I could say that Cydni is kidding, but she's not, because she's been talking about all these conspiracy theories to me the entire month. Everything she just said is true. You have no idea how many conspiracy theories I had to edit out because I was like, people are going to believe this.
But here's the thing. One, I would like everyone to know I'm coming up with the conspiracies on my own. They're not just like recycled from Instagram. They are my own. And two, they might be true. That's it.
Okay, anyway. So this is the other part that Cydni and I both found funny, is that they also discussed the Beatles. Elvis had a love-hate relationship with them.
You're adding love. I don't think it was there.
I do, because,
do?
yeah, listen to this quote. He invited him over to his house.
Yeah, because you got to keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
This is true, but maybe it's just he was still trying to stay relevant and popular. So invited the Beatles over.
To, like, fall from fame, I've heard.
Anyway, this is what he said. I like those guys. I like them, but what the hell's wrong with their teeth, man? And he also liked some of their songs, especially Yesterday and Hey Jude. So I think that he liked them, but some people believe that Elvis was jealous of the Beatles because they stole his thunder, and he did not appreciate that.
I think those feelings are real, and I feel like it's okay to have that kind of feeling if you're Elvis against the Beatles, because you've been shaking your hips.
You were the king of rock and roll.
King. You switched things up. You dyed your hair with shoe polish. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
He dyed his hair with shoe polish because he's a blondie.
That's commitment.
And his eyebrows.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. Also, he wore crop tops a lot. And some say that he got his inspiration for fashion through Captain America Jr. from a comic book. And he had a collection of comic books.
I don't even know if you're being serious or if
no,
it's
that's
another
all.
conspiracy
That's all
theory.
true. I did look up this comic book character, and there's not a single crop top. So I was like, I'm not seeing the connection on that, but
Maybe it wasn't a crop top. Maybe it was a cape, because he wore a lot of capes.
that makes more sense. It said crop top in a very trustworthy YouTube video that I watched.
All right. So at the meeting with Nixon, this is what Elvis said about the Beatles. The Beatles came to this country, made their money, and then returned to England, where they promoted an anti-American theme. So some people think that he was just mad at them because this was his perception of them, or he was jealous, or maybe it was a little bit of both.
What do you decide?
I don't know. I think it was a little bit of both. That's my guess.
Okay, 100% jealousy.
So Elvis at this meeting asked Nixon for a badge from the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. Nixon asked Bud to go find him one. And Elvis was so happy about getting a badge that he hugged him. Then Elvis asked Nixon if his bodyguards could come into the room to meet President Nixon. Nixon agreed. So Jerry and Sonny got to walk in and meet the president. Bud said this: Nixon walked behind his desk and opened the bottom drawer to give each of them a gift. Sensing there was a lot of stuff in the desk, Presley started rummaging through it. This was a man that was used to getting what he wanted, you could tell, and he didn't have a lot of boundaries. So as the president is taking out the cufflinks and the paperweights and the golf balls, Elvis is reaching in towards the back of the drawer and taking out the real gold stuff, the valuable presents. Bud further said that Elvis then said, Mr. President, they have wives. So out came more presents. With that, Elvis, his bodyguards, and his brand new shiny badge left the White House. And he apparently carried that badge with him everywhere he went.
I know that I have some conspiracies, but his wife did too. She wrote that she believed that he just wanted the badge so he could carry guns and drugs into other countries with no problem. So she thinks it was a little bit more sus, like I do.
I could see that.
And then also I love so much that somewhere it talks that he was really familiar with the drugs and well acquainted with drugs. So he was a good candidate to take care of problems with it because he was so well acquainted with drugs. But that's a conspiracy that I may not be able to prove if he did drugs or not.
He did use drugs.
I was just trying to take something that was actually real. In my head, it was really funny. My humor is just,
it just goes over my head. Okay, let me tell you the reason why I like this story about Elvis. It shows that he was willing to show up for something that he truly believed in.
And turn something into something.
Right. And we've learned this last year that one of the secret ingredients to being happy and finding joy is just showing up. Winona Judd said, "We're showing the world what a dysfunctional family does. We show up for each other." In our families, communities, and country, we are like a dysfunctional family. So let's just show up for each other. The Apostle Paul taught us in Galatians chapter 5, verse 13. He said, "For brethren, ye have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another." In this month celebrating our liberty, let's not waste that freedom that we have been blessed to have on just ourselves, but choose to show up for others. Gandhi said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." Serving and showing up is the secret ingredient to happiness and lasting joy.
You know, Sher, our theme is happiness. And I don't know if you know, but his first song that he wrote is called My Happiness.
I did not know that.
I thought, what are the chances? It is about his mother because she passed and it was really difficult for him. The whole song just talks about wanting to be with her again. And he called her My Happiness. I know this doesn't have a ton to do with what we talked about, but when has that stopped me? Sher and I today were making jokes about why we would choose to come and face the challenges of this earth and all that comes with it. We're like, the prize better be amazing. And I was mostly being ridiculous, but Sher said something so beautiful that connected this to me. I was like, what are the chances? But I said, why are we even doing all this? And then you said, you get what I'm saying, but you would do anything to be with your parents again. And when I read through the words of his song and knowing that it was about his mom and how much he loved her and it was soul crushing to lose her and that he called her My Happiness, I did reflect a lot on what we've talked about and how relationships are so important to us and we need to take better care and better thought and a better appreciation for those that we love because that is where happiness comes from. Simply this week, we challenge you to love your family better. We challenge you to reach out to someone and let them know that they bring you happiness. And even if they're absolutely eccentric, we just challenge you to show up for them.
This brings us to our final thoughts. Elvis may have been a global superstar, but at his core, he was just a man who cared deeply about his country and wanted to help. He didn't let doubt or fear hold him back. Instead, he showed up, cape and all, ready to serve. Happiness and joy often come from doing exactly that, showing up for something or someone beyond ourselves. Our communities and country might feel like a dysfunctional family sometimes, but showing up is what keeps us strong. And true joy is found when we use our freedom to serve, love, and show up for others. This is our prayer.
From Cydni and Sher.
I'm forging my way through the tip top. I'm living my life through the drip drop. When eternity's plan, I just can't stop. I'm making my way through the drip drop.
I thought I had an idea, but then I didn't. It doesn't matter what I say right now.
I had a dream that someday, I can't remember the rest
Is
of the
that
words.
an Elvis song?
No.
Welcome to the show. Oops. Welcome to the Cydni. What is our show called? What are we doing? What is my purpose?
I don't know. I don't even know mine. I can't figure out yours.
Hey Siri, help us. Welcome to the Cydni and Sher podcast. That's not what we say.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. I think that was a great way to start. I think it illustrated what our purpose was today.
Thank you.
And it told the listeners what to expect.
Thank you.
I think it was really solid.
Shut up.
And so hopefully you follow the outline, Sher, because it's that time. We should have a sound effect that's like, it's that time to follow the outline.
It's catchy.
I thought, what did I think? Hold on, let me tie it together. We need soda. It'll help. Okay. And a cheeseburger. We're kind of like showing the world what a dysfunctional podcast is like. We keep showing up.
Good point.
Look at us rock and roll and hip thrust.
Have a good week.
Bye.